Hey fellow babies, welcome back to the Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. If you are a SIFTD subscriber, thank you. You're keeping us going. Shane is honestly able to eat meat occasionally because of you guys, so thank you. If you are not a SIFTD subscriber and you're watching on YouTube, welcome, we love you. The only things, plural, that we'll ask you to do, if you're a Prime member, would you please go to Prime and link your Twitch account. Go to Twitch and link your Prime account. I said it backwards. Go to Twitch and link your Prime account to Twitch. Then go to the SIFTD channel and there's a way to just subscribe. When you do that, it's free. I promise it costs you nothing. You're already paying Prime. Don't worry about it. But Shane gets $250 that month. And from then on, once you've gone through the multi-step process to link those two accounts and sign up, all it is a single click from then on. Each month that you do that, Shane gets $250. So if we can get 1,000 of you to do that for Pachter Factor, you're keeping us in business and Shane can eat and I don't have to do anything. The reason we do these is because Shane takes off a weekend day, comes to my house, and we tape this stuff, and he's got expensive equipment and he's got to pay gas because it costs in his Lamborghini, it costs him, in his older model Nissan, it costs money to get here. So appreciate it if you can. If you can't do any of those things, join SIFTD, join Prime and Twitch together, and you're just a freeloader and you're watching on YouTube and you're not doing anything, register for Twitter and follow me, damn it, at Michael Pachter, it matters to me. Follow Shane at Dinfire, follow SIFTD at SIFTD Games. If you do those things, at least we feel good about ourselves because it makes us feel more important that people care. So thanks for joining us, fellow babies. Welcome back to Pachter Factor. Let's go on to questions. First question from Patreon, and this guy asks all the time, Jerry Gonzalez with an S. I love this guy, the Portuguese spelling. Right now, which has a bigger impact on video game sales? Game journalism sites like GameSpot and IGN, or Twitch YouTube personalities? Ooh, good question. Right now, I'd say conventional game journalism impacts console game sales more. I'd say YouTube and Twitch personalities right now impact free-to-play type games, but that's going to change. So, Ninja playing Fortnite actually has a bigger audience than anything going on Twitch other than Ninja. It's bigger than Overwatch, which is a console game. So if you're comparing, like the Overwatch tournament views, aside from the finals, Ninja gets more views all the time. So he's more popular, and he's one of maybe a dozen who in the aggregate have 50 million or 100 million followers. So there's so many people that watch that. Those guys will be more influential. So your question, the reason I'm answering it carefully is you said right now. And where you're going to see this transition to where personalities benefit console was evidenced by what happened with Blackout. So Blackout went live, beta, whatever it's called, and all of these YouTubers and Twitch personalities, these influencers, were playing Blackout and they raved about it. And Activision stock went up 10%. Now, just to frame that, Activision stock was worth about $50 billion last week, and it's worth $55 billion now. So the value to Activision shareholders, $5 billion. That's 1/5 of Trump's wall, just so you put it in perspective. It's a lot of dough. I mean, I don't think we gave $5 billion to the Puerto Rico, flood victims. I think that was like 2 or 3 or something. So $5 billion for Activision in a week. I mean, that, honest to God, will clean up after Hurricane Florence. I mean, it's really a shit ton of money. And that's not because the, websites like IGN or GameSpot were bragging about how great Blackout was. That's because the YouTubers and the Twitch influencers were like, this is awesome, and specifically, I remember, I read more than I watched. These guys going, this makes PUBG, look like a baby game. And my attitude is, what did you expect? I mean, it's like Battle Royale in a Call of Duty environment. Call of Duty's always a great looking, slick game. I think somebody must have thought, well, Activision's not smart enough to pull this off. Yeah, well, it's not Activision. Treyarch's not smart enough to pull this off. Yeah, they are. And the important thing is, I agree with your question. The average gamer out there trusts the YouTube and Twitch influencer far more than they trust the professional game reviewer, because the game reviewer, he's a master of all trades, and he's reviewing RPGs, and he's reviewing, sports games, and these YouTubers, they're hardcore players. So, I think that's the future, and I think your question is super astute. In time, I think it's going to be the influencers that matter more. And the fact that they all played Blackout day one tells me they might have been juiced. And I don't mean paid for their rating, but they were paid to try it. So I don't think that Activision or the Call of Duty team are doing anything wrong. I don't think that they said, here Ninja, here's $5 million, tell everybody you love Blackout. That didn't happen. I think they said, hey Ninja, here's some smaller sum, and would you just play it and give your honest impression and then let your audience know, because they had confidence it was really good. I think Activision, Treyarch are smart enough to have a piece of their marketing budget to get influencers to try their game, and then I think they have the confidence that their game's good enough that the influencers will be honest and they'll still be raving because it's really good. But there's high stakes here, and influencers have much, much more impact than traditional game journalism sites on the masses instantly. So I think that's the wave of the future. I don't think game journalism goes away, because you still want a thoughtful review. I like to read people's impressions. I like to read about what works and what doesn't work. And the streamers tend to be playing and showing you and talking as they go. I think the streamers take a greater investment by the viewer than a game journalist who might write a page or two, and you can read a review and kind of get a feel for it. But great question. And I think influencers are the wave of the future. Our next question from SIFTD from Damp Towel Man. I don't remember that guy, but I love his name. Why do developers and publishers continue to add licensed materials like music to their games if they have to stop selling their game or make changes to it once the license expires? As far as I know, this problem doesn't seem to exist for movie studios when they use licensed music in films. Yeah, good question. I mean, the reason on movies is that they buy a license for the film, period, and the film doesn't evolve over time. So they have the license for the music. The movie never changes, and games do. But the truth is that most developers and publishers avoid licensed music, and they have their own game composers. I encourage you to look up Tommy Tallarico. Tommy made millions composing video game music, and he made millions because he gets a very small royalty on lots and lots of sales. I think he did Tony Hawk. He might have done the original Spider-Man game for Activision. I think he did Tony Hawk. But he's done a bunch of big games that had original music, which Tommy wrote. And so, life is good if you're getting 50 cents for every copy of a game sold, and there's millions and millions of copies sold, even if you're getting 10 cents. But, it's cheaper to do that than to pay, Blink 182 or GWAR. Remember GWAR was in a game?
GWAR was the band you came up with?
Yeah, I remember GWAR being in a game. I remember somebody making a big deal about GWAR being in a game. That's why I started saying GWAR being that. I went to some video game event and GWAR was playing because they were in the game. The games that use real music, for whatever reason, like Madden has hip hop in it. Call of Duty always has some kind of rock that is during the genre where the game is set. But the Rockstar guys have radio stations with real music. But I think it really just depends on what the vibe is of the game. I mean, if they want to have a really good vibe for the game, they want to have music that establishes the setting. And again, that's a creative thing. I'm not creative enough to tell you, but they do it because they think it's a better experience, and they think that players will enjoy the game more if there's something that kind of sets the tone of the game. And I would say of all of the publishers, Take-Two with Rockstar probably does the best at GTA. I think the GTA games consistently, you notice the music. and it's fun because like when you take a car, you can change the station and get different music. It's cool. And then of course they add their own stuff like talk radio and stuff in there. It's fun. So they do what they got to do to sell games, and sometimes licenses expire, and it really goes into setting it up front to make sure that you have the rights for as long as you need them. There's a controversy in Madden, and I just heard this song, but I don't remember the hip hop artist, but there's a hip hop track that mentioned Colin Kaepernick, and there was a controversy because EA took Colin Kaepernick's name out, and it was back like a day later. But the justification for not putting his name in was that EA thought that they had to contract with the NFL for the rights to use his name, and then after a day of kind of verifying, that he's not an NFL player, and they didn't have him in the game. It was a hip hop artist, mentioning him in the lyrics. They put it back in, but it was a controversy like, is EA anti-Colin Kaepernick? Which it's unfortunate it was that guy, because I actually buy into EA's explanation. But licensing is a tricky business. I mean, that's the answer. That you're really not sure if you have rights or not. Marty O'Donnell, like he was the in-house Bungie composer, and so games like that you can get away with kind of your own music because Halo is kind of set in a future period where there isn't any music that's necessarily relevant. But look at stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie. One of the selling points of the movie is that Star-Lord listens to retro 80s music, and it makes it fun. So I mean, it's really just a question of the vibe. And if you're, if you want like operatic type, orchestral music that's not, if that's all you want, then you hire Marty O'Donnell or you hire Tommy Tallarico and they write that. If you just want like a good, techno beat, those guys can write that. But if you actually want, Prince to be, singing song in the 80s because your game is set in the 80s, or if you're Spider-Man and you want a New York kind of vibe, then you're going to license the titles that make sense there. So you might get Walk on the Wild Side from Lou Reed because that's a New York band or something. And Pandora pays like 23 cents per 100 listens, I think. Yeah, 23 cents per 100 listens. So, if you have 25 million people listening to a song, those guys want their 20 cents per 100 listens. It adds up to a shit ton of money. Next question from Twitter, @GTHobbs. Each month we see certain stocks going up or down when the NPD games data is made available to subscribers, but before sales are announced to the public. How is this legal and not insider trading? I've been trying to wrap my head around that one for a while now, so thanks. The NPD releases it at the same time to anybody who wants to pay them for the data. And so that, by definition, is public dissemination. Remember, the insider trading rules apply to material, non-public information, and the NPD group is a research shop. So you can argue that they have material information, but it's not published by Activision. It's not published by EA. So EA has no obligation to make everybody aware of it. They don't release any data to anybody. The NPD is capturing point of sale at retail. So they're only capturing physical. GameStop and Walmart, say, two of the big retailers, and Best Buy, they allow NPD to track based on point of sale. And so the NPD tracks that they sold 100,000 copies of Madden. And that comes out, and GameStop's not obligated to release that to the public because nobody buys GameStop because Madden sold 110,000 instead of 105,000. They don't go up at all. It is data about how sales are going. Theoretically, if you had enough people in the stores, you could observe this yourself. You could have, if you were willing to station one person at each of the 50,000 doors in the United States that sell physical games, you could count everything. So it's all available. It's just the NPD captures it. They release it. They do not discriminate against who they sell to. So they sell it to everybody. They sell it to me. And I publish that data for investors. I host a call the evening that the data comes out. And we open it to any investor who has an account with my firm. So true, we don't speak to every investor in the world, but my firm does business with 80% of the mutual and hedge funds in the US. So it's very well disseminated. And that's my firm. Multiply that times the other 25 guys who cover video game stocks. Now it's widely disseminated and public as soon as it comes out. The point though with the NPD is I'm not allowed to publish more than 3 numbers per month, but I'm allowed to pick which 3 numbers I publish. So assuming that all the 30 analysts who cover the stocks, publish 2 or 3 numbers, the stuff that I'm going to publish are the numbers that impact the stocks. I'm not going to publish, hey, Madden 15 only sold 4 copies last month. Like, that's not coming out on my note. I'm going to publish in this month's, note that Madden 19 sold X number of copies. And when I publish, it actually goes out to anybody who has an account at Wedbush, which is at least 500 hedge funds and mutual funds, and at least, I don't know how many thousands of accounts. We have 1,000 retail stockbrokers. So anybody who has an account at Wedbush, they must each have 100 clients. So hundreds of thousands of people hear about this before the market opens tomorrow. So they get it, and it's widely disseminated. Public dissemination doesn't require that 100% of the public has it. It requires that it is widely disseminated. And the definition of wide dissemination is not everybody. So obviously the definition can't be everybody, because there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. There's no way that there's more than 1 million people who care. So you don't have to publish to everybody. You have to make it available so that anybody who cares has a way to get it. And so your pushback that, well, if they want it, they have to pay for it. Let me flip your question over. If you want to make money investing in the market, you better be prepared to have an account with a broker who has access to the data. That's it. But the point is, I don't get the data only, and I selectively disclose to 5 investors and they make money. I get the data because I pay for it, and I widely disseminate it we do not bar anybody from being on our call as long as they have an account with us. So clearly I don't send out the number to put it on Twitter. So I have 40,000 people on my call. I send it out to clients to listen to our callback. And on my callback, guys will go, how did Kirby from 3 years ago sell? I mean, we literally get questions all the time. How did a company I don't cover, Street Fighter do from Capcom? Or how did Final Fantasy do from Square Enix? And I don't cover either of those. And I'm like, 23,000 units, whatever.
Are you able to share more than 3 data points on that call?
Yes, the NPD is great. So the NPD, you got to understand the NPD's position, and they're really, really great about this. They make money. It costs them money to compile this data, and they make money by selling it, because they spend money to compile it, they sell it for more than it costs them, and they make a profit. And they want to protect that, so they don't want to give it away for free. So I'm not allowed to publish numbers and give them to the press. I'm not allowed to call the press and give numbers, and the press says to me, how did Final Fantasy sell? I say, can't disclose that to you. But if an investor asks me, the reason that I subscribe is I can talk about any number to any investor, including you. So if GT Hobbs, if you were an investor with Wedbush, and if you paid us enough to have direct access to me, you could call me right after the NPD numbers come out and say, what are these numbers? I would tell you. So I don't selectively disclose. It's widely disseminated, and that's good enough. It's within the rules. So the answer to your question is, why is it insider trading? Because the regulations are written such that this is wide dissemination. Our last question this week on our very long Pachter Factor from Patreon, from Graft Treon Guy. Hey, Pack, in the long run, is it better for console hardware to have two $50 price drops separated by a year, a single $100 price drop. There's a concept in economics called price elasticity of demand, and you figure out how much demand goes up when you cut the price, and so do the math. If demand goes up, if you sell more consoles at two $50 drops than you do at one $100 drop, then you do $250. I don't know the answer. So the answer is whichever one makes more sense to the console manufacturer. You are seeing a lot more minor cuts and bundling. So typically what console manufacturers do is they keep the price the same and add a free game. And that's considered to be a $50 or $60 drop. And then when they stop giving the free game, they cut the price by $50. So that's typically how they've been doing it the last few years. But back in the PlayStation 2 era, $100 price cuts were the norm. So PS2 launched in 2000 in the US at $300, and in May of 2002, 18 months later, or 18 months, they dropped it to $199. Then the next cut was 50, and then the next cut was 50. Xbox did the same thing, but then Xbox 360 barely got cuts. I think there were two $50 cuts, and that was it. PS3 got a $200 cut, and then $100, and maybe another $100, then $50s. So it's all over the place, and there is no easy answer to that. You cut price as you figure it out. And what you're really seeing is so many new models that they'll segment the price between the 500 gigabyte and the 2 terabyte, and they charge you, they just, 2 terabyte hard drive probably costs like, $30. I mean, they're just not expensive. And so they charge you $100 more so they can cut that by 75, the next day. So the prices are all over the place with all these models. I don't have an answer to it. Thank you for joining us on SIFTD.net. I am hopeful you can find the money to subscribe to SIFTD. You get a ton of content. Shane is just packaging up this stuff. There's always something new. If you are not a SIFTD subscriber, the next best thing you can do for us is go to Amazon Prime, or go to Twitch and link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. From there, log on to the SIFTD channel, and you can subscribe. It costs nothing, and Shane gets $2.50. And if you do it once, then the next time you're on, just click one button and we get another $2.50 a month. So each month you do that, Shane gets some support. It helps him support his family so he can afford to come out here on a Saturday and tape this with me. I don't get paid on it. I just want Shane to survive and thrive so that we can keep doing this. If you can't get your act together to do either assisted subscription or you don't have a Prime membership, I get it, and you're watching on YouTube, I insist that you follow me on Twitter, at Michael Pachter, follow Shane at Dinfire, follow SIFTD at SIFTD Games. That costs nothing and it boosts our egos. So at a minimum, please follow us on Twitter. I'll do my best not to alienate you. I don't tweet that often, but I tweet enough to be entertaining. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Only a select group of people have that the mass audience does not have access.
No. It's not insider information. It's widely disseminated by definition. So when you say you shouldn't have to pay, I didn't say you have to spend money with Wedbush.
You just have to have an account.
Yeah, if you own, let me just make it really easy. If you own stocks in video game companies, if you transfer your account to Wedbush and you have a Wedbush broker, you get my note as soon as it comes out. And my note comes out before the next morning market open. You can read those numbers and you actually have access to listen to a replay of my call. You won't get my call live, but it's posted for replay 30 minutes after it ends, because I just don't want to have you asking questions in front of my core clients. But you can listen immediately thereafter. So do you have to pay? Well, yeah, you have to buy and sell your stocks with us. That's why I get paid. I get paid because my firm has accounts with people who pay us. But you don't have to pay for that data. My firm we spend over $100,000 a year. We pay that. We get nothing back for that other than provide service to clients.
It's within the spirit of insider trading, though.
No, I don't.
Really?
Really?
I do.
Really?
I think it absolutely does.
So,
because I shouldn't have to pay
to
have the same data as somebody else to make investment decisions.
So if you own stocks, you have an account somewhere. If you move that account to a brokerage firm that does MPD, you can get access to the data the same as everybody else. Not my problem that you want to have your account at Schwab and Schwab doesn't subscribe to MPD. If you're really pissed about it, call up Schwab and tell them they should subscribe to MPD, that they should hire a really smart video game analyst, and there aren't very many of us, and that those guys should be hosting calls so you have the data at the same time. But no, it's not an unfair advantage. It's just the way the world works. Sorry. Hey, come on.
It is an unfair advantage, though.
It's not.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's like.
I would like to have that data.
Yeah, but same with like getting an injury report from some online source. You got
I get that free.
You sign up.
Everybody gets it.
You sign up to their site.
Well, I go to their.com and it's all right there for free. I think the problem is MPD has the monopoly on this data, and that should not be the case. Someone else should be able to come in and get that data just like they do.
I don't think.
Decide what they want to do.
I think again, you just said something incorrect.
What?
They don't have a monopoly
on the data.
Somebody else could go in and do point of sale if they want to spend the money to set it up.
But what are they really setting up? I mean, they're just having them report to it. Like MPD.
Anybody else can do that too.
The amount of money that MPD is charging for this stuff is robbery.
MPD pays the. MPD has a valuable service that retailers sign up for because they track TVs, they track accessories, they track headphones, they track music, they track blue jeans, for real. And so Walmart signs up because they want to see how blue jeans are selling at Macy's. So they sign up.
I mean, we know why people sign up.
Right. So if someone wants to replicate that, more power to them. The MPD provides a service to the retailers, and in exchange gets access to the data. I think that's what capitalism's all about. But the idea that because there's data out there, like let's say this. Let's say I do a channel check, okay? And I conclude that a game isn't selling well. And I publish that in a note. Hey, guess what? It's not insider information. I observed it myself. I'm telling you, MPD is observing something that is public. They're watching activity.
That's technicality, though. They're not really going in the stores and watching people buy stuff. They're just taking the data
but
from
they
the retailers.
Could. But they could.
Well, we all could. Actually, you can't. There's no way one person could be at every Best Buy.
No. That wasn't the definition. You could hire 3 sets of 50,000 people and have 3 8-hour shifts, and they could watch every physical sale that happened. Except for Amazon. You could do it.
Maybe.
You could.
I think you're missing the spirit of the question, though.
No, the spirit of the question is, I'm sorry, the spirit of the question is this fricking entitlement society that if there's any information out there, everybody should put it out on the internet for free for all to observe. Sorry, the world doesn't work that way.
I think even he thinks that what's happening is against the law.
Right.
I think he's smart enough to realize, they're going to follow the book of the law. I think he's just saying that the way the law is set up, it's kind of screwing the little guy.
Then get an account at Wedbush, and we will be happy to have you as a Wedbush customer. You do not have to pay us any money. Just move your stock holdings to Wedbush, get a Wedbush broker, and you will get a Wedbush account. You can enter the Wedbush portal, and you can read all of our research, and it's put up real time. As soon as it's sent out to investors, it is posted on our website. You can read it that instant. So you and everybody who has an account at Wedbush gets it at the same time. And I can put Shane on my mailing list. I'm not going to put you on my mailing list, so deal with it. All right, let's move on.